Alright, so this video is for part B of your sectional issues of the antebellum period. By now you probably looked at the issues 1 through 8. You've looked at like how each of the three gentlemen would stand on each of those issues, their rationale for supporting or not supporting the issues. So I wanted to look at the questions 1 through 7, and I wanted to do it by looking at the following maps. This first map you look at, or you're looking at, it's the growth of the United States from 1783 to 1853. Um, and I want to use this as a way to answer some of these questions. The first question: how did the definition of the West change in the years 1800 to 1860? What I would look at is look at the maps, right? And look at the sections that each new land acquisition has. So we started here, all right? So North Carolina, the Appalachian Mountains, that was the West, okay? Original 13 colonies. Okay, now Treaty of Paris happened 1783, boom. Now this is the West, all right? Now 1803 happens, this, right? Now this is the West. Now 1848 happens, this is the West, right? So how did the definition of the West change in the years 1800 to 1860? You just want to look at, all right, so every time we acquire land, right, our definition of what is the West changes. Um, and I think you should take that thought and use it to help explain your answer. Now, for the next one, the next couple questions, actually 2 through 7, we're going to look at these maps. And so, number 2, what were the assets of continental expansion? So, assets are the benefits, right? What are the benefits of continental expansion? Um, I think one of the biggest ones is that as we expand, right, as we acquire new territory, on the business side, right, they see new markets. And I'm looking over here, all right. You can look at this one on the right, you can look at this one on the left. But here on the right hand side, as we expand, right, and this goes hand in hand with the expansion of transportation as well. There's new markets now, so businesses can have their products reach new consumers. Um, I think another good example is new sources for raw materials. I mean, you look at it here, and as we this is U.S. cotton production 1800 1860, and you see here that everything that was in light yellow, all right, is cotton production in the 1820s. And then as we expand, and especially we get into Texas right here, we acquire Texas in 1845, and you see that the extent of cotton production by 1860, all right, has reached Texas. And so there's also new sources for raw materials. The West has also been seen as an outlet. Almost it's called the safety valve theory, and what that means is that when people are living here in the East, right, and it's not necessarily the original 13 colony, you're just saying maybe you're living in New York in 1820, right, and your life is not the best, you're not very happy with your situation. There's always the possibility that you could move out west and start a new life for yourself. And so it was we see the West as an outlet. We see the West as a safety valve where people can move out west. If they're having a rough time east, they can move out west and start a new life. Um, I think also when you're gaining new territory, think about back to John Quincy Adams. Why does he? What was one of his main goals as Secretary of the State? To acquire new territory. And when you acquire new territory, this gives the United States greater power. It gives them a higher status as far as world affairs go. And this is more of if you're like a nationalist politician, you would say that this also is granted the United States new possibilities for extending the value of democracy. Now, what are the negatives that accompanied new territorial acquisition? We'll think to this one here on the left-hand side, this picture. Um, as we're getting new territories, think about Missouri, for instance, the Missouri Compromise. This was a reintroduction of the slavery controversy. So every time we gain new territory, all right, it starts with Missouri in 1820, but then it's later going to go out here. When we get the stuff from the land from Mexico, it's going to deal with this middle or the Midwest territories in the 1850s. Every time we acquire new territory, these new territories will become states, and that topic or that issue will be brought up again. Is it going to be a slave state or is it going to be a free state? You see that we gained some of these territories due to problems with neighboring countries. So when we're purchasing new land, all right, and for instance Texas, all right, we get Texas in 1845. Well, the very next year we get into a war with Mexico. So one of the negatives that come with new territories is that it also comes with problems with neighboring countries. So the next question: how did Henry Clay's American system help promote national unity? So Henry Clay's American system, if this is your first station for the second round, you haven't done the background research on Henry Clay's American system. I would encourage you to look in Chapter 7, Section 1 of your textbook, and that could really help you out as far as the individual components. But Henry Clay's American system was aimed at creating a self-sufficient national economy. This economy would be interdependent. So that means that the three sections of the country, the North, the West, and the South, all right, would rely on each other. Henry Clay saw that the North has manufacturing. That's what they specialize in. All right, manufacturing textiles. Well, the South, they produce cotton. Cotton is used in textile mills, and the West produces grain and corn and food. And so Henry Clay saw that each region of the country had something that the other two regions could benefit from. And he was just thinking, like, what if we created a system in which our economy was interdependent on the three regions, and that every region relied on each other and not a foreign country? This was his goal, all right, and he thought if that the three regions could work together and rely on each other and become interdependent, then it would help promote national unity. Um, However, there are some glaring differences that the regions of the country can't get over, and I think this goes into number five. How did the social structure change more dramatically in the North than the South? Well, in the North, you see there's a lot more canals, a lot more roads, so transportation's picking up. Um, why? Why is transportation having such a large presence in the North and not in the South? Well, it's due to industrialization. Industrialization and immigration is going to change the social structure in the North more dramatically than in the South. As a result, the North is going to become more diverse economically, more diverse socially. The South, you see cotton production, all right? So the South is determined to protect their farming lifestyle with cotton, thanks to the cotton gin. They're also determined to protect slavery because slavery increases due to the cotton gin. And as a result, you see these two different regions of the country. And in conclusion is that the North is going to accept change. Um, it's going to um, try to is going to be more willing to try to bring about change and reform for the betterment of society, where the South is just kind of slow moving and it's more reactionary. Looking at number six, how would you characterize the emergent position of the West? Well, the West is farming, just like the South, but it's farming. The staple crops are wheat, corn, um, more of the looking back to like the bread basket sort of crops. And so the West became actually more politically and economically tied to the East. as the different modes of transportation, like the roads, the canals, um, started to develop and emerge, you saw the East and the West become politically and economically linked together. Um, and this actually isolated the South. And so, as we see Henry Clay's American system being put into practice, and you see the roads and canals and internal improvements being created, um, it does part of what he had envisioned. It does make the North and the West interdependent. It does link the North and the West economically and politically speaking. However, the negative or the downside is that it isolates the South. And this directly ties into number 7. How did the increased regionalization of the nation create difficulties for the national government? Well, it's because the South felt so isolated um, that it felt like it was unable to protect its interest as part of the Union. And so we're going to see that the federal government is going to have a hard time balancing competing interests, and eventually these challenges, our leaders become overwhelmed and they're not able to respond to the challenges. They're not able to respond to the insecurities of the South, and our country ends up in war. Um, and so for the next couple of units, we're going to see how our country becomes more regionalized and how sectionalism over certain issues, politically speaking, economically speaking, all right, slavery is both, how these issues polarize our country, and how sectionalism um, is going to be an increasing problem that our leaders over time um, will exhaust their ideas as to how to address and fix the problems of sectionalism and regionalization. I hope this has helped, and if you have any questions, please ask.